There was a time when a group of friends would pull every coin they had for a video game, not complaining once about what it cost. No hesitation, no debate about whether it was worth it. The game had already earned that commitment before anyone opened their wallet. Something changed between those times and now. Prices kept climbing, but the commitment stopped feeling mutual. What does a price tag actually represent? And when did games stop needing to justify it? Supply and demand is a reasonable enough concept in theory, but what's happening in the modern gaming market doesn't feel natural in that sense. It feels more like a price point that was established and is now actively being maintained by the industry regardless of what the market would organically produce. There are legitimate arguments for why games cost what they cost. Making a game in the 90s for old consoles like the Super Nintendo or Mega Drive was genuinely difficult work, both in terms of expertise required and hours invested. The graphics alone are a testament to that. Pixel art on those consoles was done largely by hand using technology we'd consider ancient today. And yet those visuals hold up remarkably well. Not just on the CRT televisions they were designed for, but on every technological leap in display quality that followed. Someone did exceptional work under extraordinary constraints, and the price reflected genuine craft. So what happened between then and now? Let's go back to that question of natural supply and demand, because the answer is more complicated than the industry would like to admit. There is a peculiar irony in console pricing that rarely gets examined. Consoles have traditionally been associated with younger audiences, kids and teenagers, while PCs skew toward adults with disposable income. Logic would suggest console games should be priced accordingly. The reality is often the opposite, but the pricing question runs deeper than the number on the box. When you compare some of the greatest games ever made against certain modern releases, the price difference doesn't reflect a difference in the craft. It reflects something else entirely. Bloated development structures where marketing, legal, HR, and economic teams all leave fingerprints on a product that was never theirs to shape in the first place. Video games at their best were always a form of escapism. Creative worlds built with almost no boundaries, a fantasy given form. The further corporate infrastructure moves into that creative space, the more the product starts serving institutional priorities rather than the player's experience. The customer paying full price increasingly receives something optimized for mass market approval rather than the genuine quality. The craft gets diluted. The price stays the same. Sometimes it goes up. Progress is worth embracing when it genuinely improves something. Nobody reasonable argues otherwise. The problem isn't that gaming companies evolved their internal structures. It's that the products coming out of those structures increasingly suggest changes made aren't working to their or customers' benefit. The sentiment is growing, and it isn't coming from nowhere. A long string of major AAA releases that simply don't deliver. This puts a very reasonable question on the table. Do these additions to the development process actually benefit anyone? The honest answer, looking at the output, is increasingly one-sided. Profit is a legitimate goal. Nobody in the video games industry is working purely for the gratitude of a YouTube video praising their craft. But there is a meaningful difference between healthy profit and a development philosophy. This philosophy has entire sections of a game appear designed primarily to funnel players toward microtransaction or an online shop. One produces a good game that makes money. The other produces a monetization system with the game loosely constructed around it. The fatigue players feel isn't directed at any one company's greed in isolation. It's the accumulated weight of an entire industry doing the same thing simultaneously, and none of it producing anything genuinely worth the price being asked. One disappointing game is a disappointment. 100 games all sharing the same sanitized template, the same shop mechanics, the same hollowed out design philosophy, that's a pattern. And once you start seeing the points on the graph, the lines draw themselves. Thinking about this topic made me wonder, how would the games that justified their price tags actually compare to what's being released today? Chrono Trigger came to mind immediately, as perhaps the most ambitious collaborative project ever conceived in gaming. I do apologize in advance if any mispronunciations occur. I do try my best to pronounce the following names. Hironobu Sakaguchi, a legendary designer, director, and creator of Final Fantasy series. Yuji Horii, creator of Dragon Quest series. And perhaps the most known of them all, Akira Toriyama, the manga artist behind Dragon Ball. Three titans from completely different creative worlds, spending nearly a year in discussion before a single line of code was written, building something none of them could have made alone. The game released at $90, a significant ask by any measure, and yet it sold tens of thousands of copies immediately, and over 5 million units across its lifetime. Not because of marketing infrastructure or sanitized mass market appeal, but because the people who made it took genuine pride in every layer of what they were building. Blizzard told a similar story. StarCraft, shaped by Chris Metzen, James Finney, Bob Fitch, and Sam Didier, became a cultural juggernaut that remains relevant today. The story holds, the unit design still captures imagination. The soundtrack of StarCraft gets played outside the game entirely on its own merit. Warcraft 3 and the World of Warcraft through to the Wrath of the Lich King continued that tradition of craft justifying its cost. The pattern these games share isn't budget or marketing. It's people who knew exactly what they were trying to make and refused to stop until they made it. As Marcus Aurelius so eloquently said it himself in his Meditations, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one. Translated into craft, waste no more time debating what a good game should be, make one. While it is never 100% clear what is the direction where you create extraordinary video games that will make a mark on the video game industry, it is clear that if we turn the clock back 10 or 15 years ago, the aim was much clearer and the effort was more visible. While it is never certain that you will create a legendary video game, those that have missed the mark but had their heart in the right place are still being enjoyed today, despite their flaws. I remember those internet cafe days well, barely scraping together enough money just to pay for a time to use those PCs. And then Wrath of the Lich King was announced and every financial plan went out of the window. A group of us, all unemployed at the time, all counting coins, somehow found the money for the expansion and several months of subscription. Every single one of us had a story about the hurdles it took to get there. None of us complained about the price for even a moment. The game had earned that commitment before we'd played a single hour of it. I'm not sure anything has come close to replicating that feeling since. Elden Ring approaches it. Baldur's Gate 3 and Clair Obscur are recent examples that get genuinely close. Maybe just a few inches shy. But that specific alchemy of hype, trust, and community anticipation that Wrath of the Lich King generated in me and my friends, I don't think that feeling is coming back anytime soon. That's a high bar, and I hope we get something similar in the future. That's what a justified price tag actually feels like from the other side, from the customer. Which raises the question that nobody in the industry seems eager to answer. What exactly are we paying for today when price tags reach 80, 100, even $110 or $20 for deluxe or premium editions. The product itself? Or the operational cost of bloated corporate structures that can't come close to matching the standards certain games set decades ago. On the surface, it looks like supply and demand, pricing benchmarked against competitors doing similar things. But that comparison only works if the products being compared are actually comparable. And here is where the self-awareness problem becomes impossible to ignore. The developers and titles mentioned earlier didn't just make good games. They defined entire genres and set standards that remain difficult to reach even today. When a modern studio prices their release alongside Elden Ring or The Witcher 3, they're implicitly claiming equivalence with what those games represent. That craft, that vision, and that refusal to compromise. And the product they deliver suggests either a complete unawareness of what that standard actually required, or a deliberate choice to look the other way. One must wonder which is worse, not knowing or not caring. Behind every major AAA release is an entire ecosystem of people. Accounting, legal, HR, developers across every specialization, artists, producers. Most of them genuinely talented, genuinely working hard. And somewhere in that structure, someone sets a price that puts the whole enterprise at risk, while apparently nobody says anything out loud. There is a fair argument that not everyone in a company has a voice on pricing decisions, and it's also fair that not everyone should. But at some point, the emperor's new clothes become visible to everyone in the room. Do the people building these games truly not care about the future of their own work? Or has the structure grown so large that individual care simply gets absorbed and neutralized before it reaches anyone with actual influence? Perhaps the industry got too big to be successful. The bureaucratic weight, the corporate infrastructure, the distance between the people making creative decisions and the people playing these video games. All of it compounding quietly until the product stops reflecting anyone's genuine vision. Maybe the bubble is finally ready to burst. And maybe when it does, what it remains will be the developers who were always in it for the love of the craft. The indie studios carrying the same spirit as Sakaguchi, Hori, and Toriyama brought to a $90 cartridge that still holds up 30 years later. When was the last time you bought a game that truly felt worth its price, or you felt excited for a new release that justified it? Let me know in the comments below, and like and subscribe for similar topics. Until next time, take care.